Welcome to the channel, USA Coins 69, World of American Coin Collecting, where even the most ordinary pocket change could hide an extraordinary treasure. Today, we're going deep into one of the most interesting and widely circulated coins in American history, the 1967 Washington Quarter. Now, you might be thinking, a quarter from 1967? That doesn't sound very special. But what if I told you this seemingly common coin could actually be worth thousands of dollars depending on a few surprising factors? Yes, the 1967 Washington Quarter is hiding more secrets than most people realize, and today, we're going to uncover them all. Let's rewind the clock to the year 1967. The United States was in the middle of a cultural revolution. The Vietnam War raged on. The Beatles were dominating the charts. Civil rights movements were reshaping the nation. The country was transforming, and during this dramatic era, the U.S. Mint was also making changes, especially when it came to coin production. After the Coinage Act of 1965, the United States Mint removed silver from quarters and dimes due to the rising price of silver. By 1967, quarters were made entirely from a copper-nickel clad composition. So yes, the 1967 Washington Quarter contains no silver. That fact alone causes many people to overlook it, but that's a huge mistake. Because while the average 1967 quarter may only be worth 25 cents, certain rare versions of this coin have stunned collectors and auction houses alike. One of the most notable things about the 1967 quarter is that it was struck during a time when the mint had temporarily removed mint marks from coins. That's right. Between 1965 and 1967, no coins were minted with the usual D for Denver or S for San Francisco or P for Philadelphia. This was done in an effort to discourage coin hoarding, which had become a real issue when the mint stopped using silver. So if you're looking for a mint mark on a 1967 quarter, you won't find one. That alone makes this coin historically significant, but here's where things get even more interesting. During the minting process, not all quarters are created equal. Mistakes happen. Some quarters from 1967 were struck using improperly prepared dies or on the wrong metal planchets. A few were accidentally struck on silver blanks left over from previous years, while others have doubling errors, off-center strikes, or even dramatic die cracks. These mint errors are what transform an ordinary quarter into a coin worth collecting, and sometimes worth thousands. Imagine holding a coin in your hand, one that hundreds of thousands of people may have overlooked over the years, only to find out that it's a rare variety. One of the most fascinating examples of this is the 1967 quarter struck on a silver planchet. Remember, by law, quarters should no longer have silver after 1964, but rare transitional errors did occur. In these cases, a silver blank was accidentally fed into the coining press, and the result was a 1967 dated quarter made from silver, not clad copper-nickel. If you're lucky enough to find one of these, the value skyrockets. There are also examples of 1967 quarters with double die obverse or reverse errors. These are coins where the die that stamps the design onto the blank shifts slightly between strikes, creating a noticeable doubling of the date, letters, or features on Washington's face. These errors are rare but highly sought after, especially when the doubling is clear and dramatic. Another important factor is the condition of the coin. In the numismatic world, condition is everything. A 1967 quarter that has been heavily circulated and worn may not be worth more than its face value. But a coin that has remained untouched in a collector's folder or forgotten roll, with no scratches, no wear, and full mint luster? That's a whole different story. Coins like these can earn the highest grades from professional grading services, such as MS-67 or even MS-68. And those grades can make a huge difference when it comes to value. So how can you tell if your 1967 quarter is one of the rare and valuable ones? Start by checking for weight. A standard copper-nickel quarter from 1967 should weigh about 5.67 grams. If your quarter weighs significantly more or less, you might be holding a rare error coin struck on the wrong planchet. You'll also want to look for visual signs of mint errors, doubling in the lettering or date, strange lines or cracks in the design, or even color differences that suggest it could be silver. If you think you found something special, don't rely on guesswork. get it graded by a professional. Third-party grading services can authenticate the coin and assign it an official grade, which not only helps you understand what you have but also increases its value and marketability. Collectors and dealers trust certified coins, and you'll have solid documentation to support its value, but even if your coin isn't a dramatic error, the 1967 Washington quarter still holds great appeal for collectors. It represents a pivotal moment in U.S. coin history. When silver was removed, mint marks were temporarily eliminated, and the mint was experimenting with modern materials and methods. Owning a 1967 quarter is like holding a piece of that transformation in your hand. It connects you to a specific moment in time, to the artistry and precision of the minting process, and to the enduring legacy of the Washington quarter design, and now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the value. While most 1967 quarters won't fetch more than $1 or $2, the rarest ones, the ones with mint errors, silver planchets, or pristine uncirculated condition, have sold at major auctions for jaw-dropping sums. In fact, a rare 1967 Washington quarter in exceptional condition with the right error has been valued at as much as $50,000, yes, $50,000, just imagine that. A coin you might have spent on a candy bar decades ago could actually be worth more than a luxury car today. That's the thrill of coin collecting. It's not just about old money, it's about discovery, history, and sometimes, life-changing surprises hiding in plain sight. Today, that a 1973 Washington quarter dollar, a coin millions of Americans have spent on vending machines, parking meters, and morning coffee, could be hiding a hidden treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars? Yes, the United States of America 1973 Washington quarter is more than just loose change. It could be your ticket to a small fortune, and today, we're going to reveal all the secrets behind it. The 1973 Washington quarter might appear ordinary at first glance, but the moment you look deeper, you realize that there's a lot more than meets the eye. It carries history, mystery, and for a few lucky collectors, unimaginable value. This quarter is part of one of the most beloved coin series in American history, introduced back in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. Since then, it's been a mainstay of American currency, passing through countless hands every single day. But not all quarters are created equal, and that's where the magic of the 1973 version comes in. Let's talk about the basics first. The 1973 Washington quarter was struck at multiple U.S. mint facilities, primarily Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The ones from Philadelphia have no mint mark. The ones from Denver carry the D mint mark. And the San Francisco issues, marked with an S, were produced as proofs, meaning they were specially made for collectors with extra care and brilliant mirror-like finishes. Proof coins were never intended for circulation, and if you've got one that somehow ended up in pocket change, you might already be holding something special. But here's where the story gets really fascinating. The 1973 quarter was part of a generation of coins that underwent strict quality controls and high minting volumes. Yet, despite that, certain rare and unusual varieties slipped through the cracks: error coins, mint mistakes, off-metal strikes, and double dies that collectors today are chasing with a passion. These errors are what can send the value of a common coin skyrocketing. Now, let's break it down. One of the most valuable types of 1973 quarters are the ones with double die errors. That's when the die that strikes the design onto the coin shifts slightly between strikes, creating a doubled image. On the 1973 quarter, you might find doubling on the word Liberty, on the date, or even on Washington's profile. If the doubling is strong and clear, it becomes a major collectible item. And here's the thing, many people don't even notice it unless they look really, really close. So while most people spend these coins without a second thought, you might be one of the few to catch a hidden gem, but that's not the only kind of error to look for. Some 1973 quarters were struck off-center, meaning the image is shifted, and part of the coin's design is missing or uneven. These kinds of striking errors can range from minor to dramatic, and the more unusual or noticeable they are, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are even a few cases of 1973 quarters being struck on the wrong planchet, like on a dime blank or foreign coin blank. That means the coin is either the wrong size, the wrong color, or the wrong weight, and if you find one of those, you're in extremely rare territory. Now let's talk condition. Just like vintage cars, the better condition your quarter is in, the more it's worth. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with anything over 65 considered mint state or better. A 1973 quarter in pristine, uncirculated condition, with no scratches, nicks, or wear, could be worth much more than face value. But when you combine that flawless condition with a rare error or anomaly, that's when values start to climb into truly shocking territory. It's important to remember that most 1,973 quarters in circulation are still just worth 25 cents. But the treasure is in the exceptions, the few coins that defy the odds and stand out due to rarity, quality, and historical interest. And here's where collectors get excited. Because there have been real-world examples of these coins being sold for thousands. People have taken their ordinary-looking quarters to coin dealers, only to discover they were sitting on rare errors that made headlines in the numismatic world. Collectors today are constantly searching through their old change jars, inherited coin collections, and even bank rolls, hoping to spot that one quarter with a unique flaw or high grade. And with millions of 1973 quarters still out there, who knows? Maybe one is hiding in your home right now. If you're wondering how to tell if your 1973 quarter is special, start with a few easy steps. First, check the mint mark. Philadelphia issues will have no mark, Denver quarters will have a D, and proof versions from San Francisco have an S. Next, use a magnifying glass to carefully examine the lettering and date for doubling. Look for any signs of off-center strikes, missing details, or strange colors that suggest a different metal content. Finally, weigh the coin on a precision scale. A regular 1973 quarter should weigh around 5.67 grams. If your coin weighs significantly more or less, it could be a rare off-metal strike. If you find something unusual or if your quarter is in excellent condition, the best thing you can do is have it professionally graded. Reputable services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate and grade your coin, which not only protects your investment but also significantly increases its market value. So, after all that digging, research, and examining, what's the big number? What kind of value are we really talking about? Well, here's the jaw-dropping truth. A rare 1973 Washington quarter with the right error and in top-tier uncirculated condition has sold at auction for as much as $40,000, yes, $40,000, for a coin that once bought a candy bar. That's the incredible world of coin collecting. Hidden value, historical significance, and the thrill of discovering something rare in the most unexpected places. So the next time you hold a quarter in your hand, especially a 1973 Washington quarter, don't overlook it. Flip it over. Examine it carefully. Because that small piece of metal might just be the most valuable thing you've touched all day. Today, we're diving deep into the story of the 1965 United States of America Washington quarter dollar, a coin that looks ordinary but might be worth far more than you ever imagined. You won't believe the twists and turns behind this piece of pocket change. The year 1965 was a major turning point in American coinage history. Before this, quarters were made of 90% silver, but due to rising silver prices and hoarding by the public, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision. In 1965, they eliminated silver from quarters entirely, shifting to a clad composition made of copper and nickel. That means this particular year marks the beginning of the modern quarter era. But just because these coins don't contain silver doesn't mean they're not worth serious money. In fact, some rare 1965 quarters have shocked collectors and dealers alike with their hidden value. Here's where it gets really interesting. While the official minting of silver quarters stopped in 1964, a few silver planchets, the blank discs used to strike coins, were accidentally left in the machinery and ended up being used to mint some 1965 quarters. These error coins are incredibly rare. They look just like the normal clad version but are heavier and give off a distinctive ring when dropped. If you're lucky enough to spot one of these rare silver-struck 1965 quarters, you might be holding a small fortune, but it doesn't stop there. The 1965 Washington quarter is also famous for a range of dramatic mint errors. Imagine a double die, where the design was stamped more than once, creating a visible doubling effect on letters and numbers. Or a coin struck off-center, where the image is visibly misaligned. Some 1965 quarters have been discovered with planchet errors, misstrikes, broad strikes, and even transitional errors. Each of these variations adds tremendous value for collectors because they are so scarce and visually unique. Now here's something most people don't realize: the 1965 quarter does not have a mint mark. That's right, you won't see a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. In that year, the U.S. Mint decided to leave off all mint marks in an effort to prevent coin hoarding. But collectors still speculate about where specific errors were struck. Coins with subtle differences in strike quality or luster may help experts determine their origin, but for the average person, it just adds to the mystery of the 1965 quarter. So, how can you tell if you have a valuable 1965 Washington quarter? First, check the weight. A normal clad quarter should weigh around 5.67 grams. If your 1965 quarter weighs closer to 6.25 grams, you might have a silver error coin. Second, look closely under magnification. Is there doubling on the letters Liberty or the phrase, "In God We Trust"? Any unusual lines, misaligned images, or faded features could point to a rare mint error. And of course, always check the edges. A normal clad quarter shows a copper stripe along the edge, but a silver quarter has a smooth, solid silver appearance. That tiny detail could be the difference between pocket change and a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Coin collectors and numismatists go crazy over these kinds of finds. And it's not just about the metal or the rarity, it's about the story. A 1965 Washington quarter might have passed through countless hands, bought a cup of coffee, sat in a change jar for decades, or been dropped behind a dresser and forgotten. And yet, despite its humble appearance, it could end up at an auction house, shocking everyone with its final price. That's exactly what happened in one extraordinary case. A nearly flawless 1965 Washington quarter with a rare mint error and pristine condition sold at a prestigious auction. It wasn't flashy. It didn't shine like gold. But collectors instantly recognized its value. And when the gavel finally fell, the winning bid stunned the audience. It was $44,000. Yes, you heard that right. $44,000 for a coin most people wouldn't even glance at twice. One that's been tossed in vending machines, dropped in car seats, and passed from hand to hand millions of times across America. But what if I told you that some of those 1990 quarters, yes, the ones you might overlook, could be quietly worth thousands of dollars? And not because of gold, not because of silver, but because of something even more powerful in the world of rare coins: minting mistakes, rarity, and condition. Let's take a journey into the world of the 1990 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance but has surprised collectors and auction houses with its hidden treasures. First, let's set the stage. By 1990, the Washington quarter had already become a well-loved fixture in American coinage, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. It was never meant to stay around this long, but due to its popularity, and of course its usefulness, the design stuck. And even by 1990, it still bore the iconic profile of Washington on the obverse, looking dignified, bold, and strong. But the 1990 version of this quarter hides more than history. Unlike older quarters that were made of silver, the 1990 quarter is part of the modern clad series, made with layers of copper and nickel. Millions of them were minted, making it one of the most circulated coins of the era. But that's exactly where the excitement begins. Because among those millions, just a tiny fraction are anything but ordinary. They are error coins, they are high-grade rarities, and they are worth serious money. You see, when the U.S. Mint produces coins at such a massive scale, even the smallest misstep in the minting process can lead to a mistake. And in numismatics, a mistake doesn't always mean something bad, it often means opportunity. The 1990 Washington quarter has been found with some fascinating and highly valuable errors, like off-center strikes, where the design isn't properly aligned on the coin, creating a visually striking mistake. Then there are double dies, where the image or lettering appears to have been stamped twice, often visible in areas like Liberty or In God We Trust. Some 1990 quarters have also been discovered struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine finding a quarter-sized coin that was accidentally struck on a smaller dime blank, making it underweight and visually shocking. Or others struck without the proper edge reading, creating smooth edges that feel unlike any normal quarter. Even missing clad layer errors, where part of the nickel coating on either side of the coin is gone, exposing the copper core beneath. It's wild, it's unexpected, and collectors pay thousands for that kind of mint mishap. But it's not just errors that drive the value of a 1990 Washington quarter through the roof, it's also condition. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin, showing no wear even under magnification. A standard pocket change quarter might grade somewhere in the 10s or 20s, but if you find one that's been somehow preserved in a roll, untouched for decades, with razor-sharp details, glowing luster, and no signs of wear, it might land a grade of MS 67 or higher. At that level, collectors go wild. Why? Because it's nearly impossible for a circulated coin to survive in that pristine state. Now, imagine you come across a 1990 quarter that's not only in flawless condition but also has one of these rare mint errors, maybe a bold double die or a misaligned strike. That coin, which might have been hiding in a drawer for years, suddenly transforms into a numismatic treasure. Collectors will line up, auctions will buzz, and bids will fly. People often think you need gold or silver to make money from coins, but sometimes it's the unexpected, the overlooked, and the seemingly normal coins that hold the biggest surprises. The 1990 Washington quarter dollar is a perfect example. It's been in circulation for decades, it's everywhere, and yet, the rarest examples have shocked experts with their final auction values. And speaking of value, here's the part that makes coin hunters and everyday people stop in their tracks. One stunning example of the 1990 Washington quarter, struck with a rare error and graded in extraordinary condition, went under the hammer and sold for $34,000. Yes, you heard that right, $34,000 for a coin most of us would ignore or spend without a second thought. We're talking about the 1991 Washington quarter dollar from the United States of America, an everyday coin that might be hiding extraordinary value if you know what to look for. The Washington quarter has been part of American pockets and purses since 1932, and by 1991, it had long become a standard fixture in commerce. But what many people don't realize is that this specific year, 1991, brought with it a small number of coins that are incredibly rare, highly collectible, and yes, extremely valuable. While millions of quarters were minted that year, only a tiny fraction holds the secrets that coin collectors dream of finding. So, let's talk about what makes the 1991 Washington quarter dollar so intriguing. First, the design itself hadn't changed much. On the obverse, we still see the strong, stoic profile of George Washington, the first President of the United States, facing left. Above him, the word "Liberty" is inscribed proudly. The national motto, "In God We Trust," sits beside his image, while the mint year, 1991, is struck clearly beneath his neck. The reverse features the iconic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows and olive branches, symbolizing peace through strength. Now, here's where things get interesting. While most 1991 quarters were minted in either Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, not all of them were created equally. Some were produced with subtle errors, mistakes at the mint that slipped through the cracks and found their way into circulation. And that, my friends, is where the hunt begins. Point one of the most sought-after errors in the 1991 quarter is the double die error, where certain parts of the coin, like the date, the lettering, or even Washington's profile, appear to have been stamped more than once, resulting in a doubled image. It's not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes it takes a magnifying glass, but once spotted, that tiny detail can mean the difference between a 25-cent piece and a life-changing payday. There are also off-center strike errors, where the coin wasn't perfectly aligned when it was struck by the die, resulting in a lopsided image with a blank crescent on one side. Some of these off-center quarters are only slightly misaligned, but the most valuable ones are dramatically off-center, yet still show the full date and mint mark. These are highly prized by collectors who specialize in minting anomalies. Another rare error involves wrong planchet strikes. Imagine a quarter that's mistakenly struck on a dime planchet, making it smaller and lighter than normal. Or a coin missing its clad layer, exposing the copper core beneath, giving it an entirely different appearance, reddish in tone, with a rougher surface. These strange and beautiful mistakes are not only rare but visually stunning, and they always attract attention at auctions. But even without these dramatic errors, condition alone can turn a 1991 Washington quarter into a prized possession. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale, with a grade of MS 60 and above considered mint state. If you find a 1991 quarter that has been kept in pristine condition, no scratches, no wear, full luster, it could grade MS 67 or even higher. The higher the grade, the more it's worth. Why is condition so important? Because most coins are circulated. They get scratched, worn down, and beat up through daily use. But a coin that was never circulated, perhaps one that was tucked away in a mint set or stored in someone's private collection, can survive the decades looking as perfect as the day it was struck. Those coins are what serious collectors are willing to pay serious money for. Now, don't rush off just yet to check your change jar, because there's more. Sometimes, a coin's value comes not just from its errors or condition, but also from its rarity in combination with those traits. A 1991 quarter that has both a rare error and an exceptional grade becomes a true numismatic treasure, something that collectors will compete for at auction, driving the price higher and higher. And let's not forget mint marks. The small letter on the front of the coin, usually below Washington's neck, tells you where the coin was made. A D stands for Denver, P for Philadelphia, and an S for San Francisco. Some mint marks are more valuable depending on the error and condition. In fact, there have been reports of quarters struck without a mint mark altogether, a rare mistake that can add thousands to the coin's value. So here's the bottom line: the next time you're handed a quarter, especially one from 1991, take a closer look. Examine both sides carefully. Check for doubling, look at the edges, see if anything feels off, or better yet, too perfect. It could be one of those rare specimens that turn up once in a generation, because believe it or not, one 1991 Washington quarter dollar, with the right combination of rarity, error, and perfect condition, shocked collectors when it sold for $31,000. Yes, that tiny coin that could have easily been used to buy a soda ended up being worth more than most people make in an entire year. So before you spend your change, slow down. You might just be holding a hidden gem in your hands, a piece of American history worth far more than face value. Keep hunting, keep learning, and you just might be the next person to discover a fortune hiding in plain sight.